There's a lot happening in the battle over whether the Olympics might come here. Boston 2024 keeps rolling out new non-Boston venues while opposition groups are uniting. Earlier this week, Citizens for a Say, that's a group pushing for a statewide ballot question that would ensure no taxpayers' dollars would be spent if the Olympics come our way, got a new ally. They joined forces with Yes on One. That was a group that successfully stopped automatic gas tax hikes this past November.
We knew that we really basically had to get out there and put together this team to get the question on the ballot so that there is no question come November of next year.
They went out and they collected a huge amount of signatures in a short period of time with a real grassroots organization. I'm proud of the team that we have already, but to build a coalition of people from all across the state, from all kinds of different backgrounds, to get this thing onto the ballot, that's really what this is about.
So meanwhile, the U.S. Olympic Committee, which will ultimately decide whether this bid moves forward, announced yesterday they're now polling Boston residents to get a better idea of public opinion. Let me help. Right now, it's not so good. Joining me tonight for more on that is Andrew Zimbalist. He's an economics professor at Smith College and author of the book Circus Maximus, the economic gamble behind hosting the Olympics and the World Cup. And we should say, once again, we extended an invitation to Boston 2024 to join us tonight or any night. Once again, they've been unable to free a single leader to be here. We've offered to pre-tape interviews anytime, any day of the week. So Boston 2024 will not be represented again tonight, and that is by their choice. Andrew Zimbalist, good to see you.
Good to see you.
They have made some of the right, you've been the lead critic. You have a piece in the Globe we'll talk about today that, again, they've started to make some of the right moves. They spread locations out throughout the state. When they were caught through a Freedom of Information request with public money going to assets and other things other than infrastructure, they removed that. They said last night on WBZ Radio, Rich Davey, the CEO, said he'll vote for the ballot question. Why are you smiling? Isn't that a step in the right direction?
I suppose that there are concessions to good public relations all along the way, and that's all that it is.
Well, isn't it also this Agenda 2020 that they keep citing, that the International Olympic Committee has embraced? Yeah. Lower cost, more sustainable Olympics. Boston 2024, despite the stumbles, seems to be heading right in that agenda's direction, no?
Well, first of all, I think if the USOC was serious about Agenda 2020, that they would have picked Los Angeles, because Los Angeles wouldn't have had to do all of the building that Boston has to do. But Agenda 2020, I think, also is about spin. Nobody was applying to host the 2022 Winter Games, and Thomas Bach, the head of the IOC, saw that, and he knew that there had to be some kind of visual or facial change. That's what Agenda 20 is about. They have been talking at the IOC about sustainability, about affordability, about other good things since the 1990s. The fact that they talk about it doesn't mean that they do very much about it. There might be some changes on the margin, but they're not going to be big changes.
I want to read you a quote from Steve Paliuca to the Boston Globe and tell me what you take out of this. You can never say the risk is zero. Any project, Olympics related or not, have some degree of risk. You have to look through the prism. What are the benefits, the risks, and what are the probabilities of those risks? How do you interpret that comment?
Spin.
Well, what do you think it means?
Well, I think he's saying that there's going to be a dependence on public money.
No guarantee. They say they're going to have an insurance policy that doesn't do it for you?
So the insurance policy that they refer to was one that was discussed in Chicago by the head of Chicago 2016, who also happened to own the insurance company. It was never a signed contract, and it was contemplated to be for $1.4 billion. The amount of money, the amount of public money that's going to go in, the amount of cost overruns that will go into this particular plan, if we actually host them in Boston, will be over $10 billion. So a $1.4 billion insurance policy isn't going to do much for the state, which is going to have to sign the IOC document that says the state is financially backstopping.
Because it's been required in every Olympics except Los Angeles, because there essentially was no competition.
Exactly.
That's what you wrote a piece today in the Globe. Hidden Olympic funding obligations will drown Boston. We don't have time for all, whatever they're 7, 8, 9, whatever. Give us the 2 or 3 highlights or lowlights, Andy.
Well, I mean, there are really many areas here, but one of the things that I think is interesting is that when Peter Ueberroth led the Los Angeles Olympics, he publicly stated that they're not going to do any fundraising because he knew that any fundraising locally would be cannibalizing funds that would otherwise go to nonprofits.
For doing all other kinds of good things in the region.
So already the Boston 2024 people have raised $14 million for their effort. And some of that is taking money away from important nonprofits. There's a tax deal that gets signed with the IOC that exempts the people associated with the Olympics from all sorts of taxes. That's going to lower the tax revenue of the city. There's a deal that says that you have to clear all the billboards in town and at the airport and the MTA.
For the Olympics.
For the Olympics. So that the city and the state is not going to receive money from that. So there's all sorts of things where it's going to cost. It's not going to be legislatively appropriated. Nobody's going to vote on it, but it's just different ways in which we're going to put money into this indirectly.
How much do polls matter to both the USOC, as I said at the top, as it was in the Globe this morning or yesterday, I can't remember, saying they're going to be doing polling of Boston. The most recent poll, WBUR, 39% approval, 50 goes to 51% if they spread out venues, which they're doing the second.
Right.
They saw, I think, handball went to Worcester just today. Does polling matter a lot? If the numbers aren't really elevated, is that the death knell for an effort?
Well, I mean, Mayor Walsh at one point said he expected 70 or 80% of the people to support this. The IOC says that they only want to do this if there's local support for it. The USOC is now paying lip service to that, announcing that they're doing polling. So I think at the end of the day, polls matter, but they don't matter as much as you might think they do. If they can get on the surface 50% support, then I think they would go forward with it.
Can you do Nostradamus action before you leave? And I won't. Well, I will hold you to it. A lot of people think this is never going to get to the IOC because the USOC is going to decide to pull the bid. What's your take on this?
I think so.
Why do you think so?
Well, I happened to speak to somebody at the USOC who indicated that that was a strong possibility. I think they're waiting to see the latest plans.
Which is days away.
It's supposedly on its way, although they told us yesterday that they're not going to be complete still at the end of this month. But Governor Baker will have a say about this. He's asked the Brattle Group to look at it. So I think the USOC is going to wait for a few weeks. If everything somehow gets cleaned up, which I think is an impossibility, then maybe they'll stick with Boston.
But if not, does it go to L.A. quickly?
I think it then goes to L.A.
Andrew Zimbalist, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Circus Maximus, great contribution. Thank you so much.